Imagine walking into a Zoom meeting to ask some questions. This is a negotiation, and instantly knowing if the seller is desperate, bluffing, or genuinely transparent. What if you could read his mind just by watching the way they talk, move, and tell their story? That's why we're here today, to decode the unspoken cues sellers give away without even realizing it. Once you learn this, you'll walk into seller meetings like you've already read the last page of the book. Hi, I'm John Stoddard from Deal Flow System. I've helped buyers close 33 million in deals and raise 50 million in funding. If you're working full time and want to buy a business without wasting years chasing junk deals, this one's for you. So, number one, the seller's opening gambit, early signals. The first 10 minutes of any Zoom or face to face meeting with a seller are like the first 10 minutes of a first date. People tell you more than they think. So you've got to watch for personal stories here. If they open with, my dad started this company in 1978, you're looking at an emotional attachment to the business. If they skip the nostalgia and go straight to numbers, margins, and trends, that's a seller already emotionally detached. Warren Buffett once said, "You can't buy a business from someone who isn't ready to sell. You'll just overpay or waste your time." Emotional attachment is the not ready red flag. Look for preparedness. I've had meetings where the financials came in a beat up folder with coffee stains, and others where I got a 30-page color printed offer memorandum like it was a PE roadshow. Disorganized usually means two things: they're juggling too much or they're hiding something. And the overprepared, sometimes that's confidence, other times it's overcompensation. Pay attention to their first questions. If they lead with, "How much cash do you have to close?" they're focused on certainty of close. If they ask, "What's your plan for the business?" they may care about legacy or employee welfare. All right, number two, decoding their demeanor beyond the script. Body language rarely lies. FBI, CIA uses techniques all the time. Charlie Munger once said he learned more watching people not talk than when they opened their mouths. The nervous seller, fidgeting, tapping pens, glancing at the clock, not making eye contact, often a sign they're stressed about the deal or something outside the deal. What about the overenthusiastic seller? Big smiles, rapid talking, no space for you to ask questions. Could be genuine excitement or an attempt to distract you from ugly details. They kind of bullying you over. Communication style does matter. Are they crisp, direct, and willing to share specifics? Or do they drift into vague phrases like, "Things are going great," without any evidence? And here's a big one: consistency in their story. I had a podcast guest tell me he walked away from a deal because the seller's version of last year's revenue, trailing 12 months, changed 3 times in the same meeting. That's not a typo. That's a motive showing through. Number three, the price and terms dance. Price is just the headline. Terms are the fine print that tell you the real story. How fast do they drop their asking price? Ray Dalio talks about the power of believability weighted decisions. If someone's willing to slash 200K in their first meeting, it's worth asking why they believe they need to do that. Could be desperation. Could be they started too high just to negotiate down. And payment terms are another tell. A seller willing to carry paper, offer seller financing, is betting on the future of the business. A seller who insists on 100% cash at close, either they need a clean break or they don't trust what's coming. All right, non-monetary risk. If they push for, "I need you to keep Janet in the payroll," or "You have to sponsor my kid's little league team," you're in legacy territory. These aren't necessarily bad, but they tell you what hill they'll die on. Number four, hidden agendas. Not every seller is motivated by money. Here's a legacy seller, for example. Buffett said he'd rather buy from people who care deeply about their business future because they'll choose the right buyer even at a lower price. If they talk more about customers, brand, reputation, employees than EBITDA, that's a good cue. The burnout seller. You'll see signs like missed deadlines, long pauses, offhand comments like, I just need a break. I had one seller meeting where he literally sighed every time the phone rang during diligence. Burnout often means they'll be more flexible just to get free. The competitor seller. If their questions start sounding like market research interview, how do you handle X, or what's your process for Y, they may be fishing. You got to protect your playbook because you don't want them to just take it back off the market, implement your ideas, and that one's dead. Number 5, the strategic advantage. Now, how do you use this without becoming the weirdo staring at someone's hands? You kind of mirror their energy, not in a fake way, just match pace and tone. Sellers will relax when you speak their speed. And strategic silence. Most people can't stand dead air. I've had sellers feel a 3-second pause with gold. Well, actually, my wife really wants us to move to Florida before the next summer. Boom. Now you know their timeline. Play the what if game. What if we structured it so you could keep an advisory role for 12 months? Or what if we did 70% at close and 30% over 18 months? Their reaction to each scenario tells you exactly where their edges are. Number 6, real world proof. One of my guests once told me about a foundry deal in the Midwest. He won it for a full $1 million less than the next highest offer. Why? Because he got in his car, drove 6 hours, and met the seller in person, face to face. Everyone else was trying to close over Zoom. He read the seller's cues, saw the pride in the shop floor, noticed the way the seller lit up talking about the workforce, and structured a deal that honored that. All right, I'm going to wrap up. The best negotiators aren't mind readers, they're observers. They notice the mismatch between words and actions. They let the seller tell them exactly what's important without ever asking directly. If you can spot these unspoken cues, you can stop negotiating against the seller and start structuring a deal with them. And that's when you win on both price and terms. If you want to go deeper with deal sourcing, deal review, and deal financing, get my playbook for reading sellers in the wild. Check out my book in the description down below. Because the only thing better than spotting a seller's hidden motives is closing the deal because of them. I'm John Stoddard, and I'll see you on the next one.